So, welcome then, everyone. Welcome to Captain's Table. This is a special Captain's Table where we're doing a workshop for the beginning of 2021 so that we can help inspire you to have your best year yet. My name's Tony Hall from Navigator Consulting. I've met quite a few of you, but there's a few of you on the meeting today that I haven't met before, and thank you very much for attending Captain's Table. Captain's Table is our monthly forum, and it's for business owners, but occasionally we have topics also that are important for recruitment consultants, who are obviously the engine room of a recruitment company. So thank you all very much for being here, and I want to give special thanks to our supporters who have been with us. Many since the very beginning, but special recognition to JobAdder. We've got Audrey and Martin on the call, and I'm going to ask Martin in a few minutes to have a couple of words about where they see the market. And what's really important about our supporters is they are working with literally dozens and dozens of recruitment companies. So I really encourage you to talk to our supporters, not necessarily to be purchasing their services, although our supporters all have top-rated services, but to get a perspective on the market that they uniquely have, because they are working with so many different recruitment companies, and most of us are only exposed to relatively few amount of other recruitment companies, and there's not a huge amount of research in the marketplace about the recruitment sector, but we'll talk about that in a second. So thank you to JobAdder, to A Positive, to Cameron and his team at A Positive, to Michael Yarrow, who some of you will know at DigitPro, who are bookkeepers for the recruitment industry. Ayers Group, who have just joined us recently. You heard Colin introduce himself, and Colin has some of his team members along as well. Thank you very much, Colin. And finally, William Buck, who are a very professional accounting firm that a lot of our smaller clients are now stepping up to for the quality of a highly professional accounting firm that really understands the recruitment industry. So thank you to William Buck in 3 states of Australia, who have also been very supportive: Cameron, Angela, Dinah, and their team members. So thank you very much. All right, so let's get started then. And I have sent you all a couple of templates. No need to look at it now, but you've got your one-page business planning templates, both for consultants and for owners and directors of recruitment companies. And I'm going to be covering both. And I think it's important that both parties know what sort of planning each party's doing. So don't feel like there's any crossover there. It'll all come together as we go along. All right, so I've already quickly introduced myself. Been consulting to the recruitment industry 22 years now. I left Ernst & Young. My first recruitment, or my first client when I left Ernst & Young was a legal recruitment company, of which the infamous Jason Elias worked for way back in 1998. And then build a consulting practice around specializing in helping to grow recruitment companies. And over the years, I've helped many owners build their recruitment companies, build them to exit, build them to increase performance. And I've dipped in and out of the industry to make sure I've got current hands-on experience managing small and large recruitment teams, both for small recruitment companies and for global recruitment companies, just to keep broadening my knowledge and making sure that I'm up to speed so I can consult and help you all at my very best. So obviously a highlight for me was buying into a recruitment company, helping to turn it around, and then selling it to a listed company back in 2005. That was a fantastic experience. And over the years, I've really enjoyed the research, the consulting, the sitting on advisory boards, and writing the book First Interview, which is now on Amazon. I've got a picture of it up there. And anyone that wants a copy, just drop me a line and I can send you a PDF version at no charge. And to say thank you for coming. And I have just launched the Recruitment Business Accelerator program, which some of you are on at the moment. And that's encapsulated 22 years of knowledge of working in the recruitment industry as a manager, as a director, and as an owner. and put it all in a short and sharp video series that goes for 10 sessions, so that all that learning is captured, and it's available at a relatively low price, so that people anywhere in the country can access it. So let's go. Now, enough about me. I want to talk about you all a little bit now. And what I want to do is I want to open it up to the floor, and occasionally you'll cross over a little bit, but it doesn't matter. What I want to do is one of the value that we get from Captain's Table is not just the content, but the sharing of knowledge between each other, because you all, as I said before, are from different states, you're from different disciplines, you've had different levels of experience, and you have very different perceptions of what's happening out in the marketplace. So what would be really good is, first of all, I want to hear from you around what your experiences were in 2020 and what you really learned from 2020 that you'd like to share with the group. Anyone want to kick off? You have to unmute yourself if you're going to kick off, is the only trick.
I can start, Tony.
Thank you, Sarah.
Well, our experience last year, I mean, we'd already had everyone set up to be able to work virtually anyway. We made the call one Tuesday night at like 9:30, and then everyone was logged in by 9 o'clock the next morning and just working as usual. I think 2020, for us, it was a big change in the sense that we were able to work virtually, but our clients hadn't really caught on to the fact that you could do a recruitment process virtually and still have it be quite effective. So that's changed quite a lot for us. We work in government as well as commercial. So government, prior to that, they never did a virtual interview at all, but they picked it up and they just ran with it themselves. Government sector kept recruiting during COVID, but the commercial sector for us just sort of tipped off and then picked up again come October last year. But now we've started off the new calendar year. It's kept going, which is good for us, obviously, and government's kicked off again quite nicely. So I know everything's month by month, but at this stage, it's looking a lot more positive than what it did for 2020.
Thank you, Sarah. And Sarah, you're located predominantly in Sydney, but recruit around Australia as well, yeah? Yeah,
mainly East Coast. We don't really do Perth or SA.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Anybody else want to share some lessons from 2020, or the big lesson you learned from 2020 and some expectations going forward for 2021?
Evelyn Woods. I learned how to keep a better control over my finances. That was really important. I did notice, I mean, in Melbourne, we had our initial lockdown in March, and quite a few support workers actually lost their jobs through that time. I noticed that with our clients overall. If they had 2 customer service people, they made them redundant down to 1. And that one person started working from home. It also wasn't particularly good on the temporary, because if you had a company that had 3 or 4 temps in there, they cut them down to 1. I noticed that straight away. And then in July, the thing that I noticed most was that what I call, for want of a better word, fat level positions, the analytical side of things like marketing and finance and whatever, rather than the nuts and bolts and doing side of finance, was starting to be made redundant as well. At least half a dozen of my clients made that level of people redundant in July. And the thing that I've noticed about it, I've kept in touch with a lot of them because they're all candidates now and they're sort of still looking for work. There's only 1 or 2 of them out of that area that actually have found other jobs. I don't know if that's a lot to do with the level of position they have, because I noticed my clients kept all the down-to-earth accounting, front face marketing, they kept those people on, but anything higher than that, they got rid of them. And a lot of them are still looking for jobs. I still keep in touch with them. The job market is opening up here a little bit. things are generally fairly slow in this area until around about Australia Day. And then everybody goes back into work and things starting to get back into normal. So the lesson I've learned is now's the time to be making my plans. Now's the time to be getting out face to face with clients who are actually in their office so that you can go see them, because that's the biggest thing that we had last year. Even some of our senior managers are working from home and are only maybe in the office one day a week. So they haven't been there on site to keep in touch with, to go see face to face. So there have been some things that I've learned over this last year, and I'm really hoping that we keep a strain on this virus so that this year can allow us to get back to a little bit of normality. Maybe not completely normal ever again. I think it's going to change the way that we have done business, and already has. My market is small to medium-sized enterprise, and they're just getting their heads around the fact that you can do an online interview. They are just coming to tabs with that. Maybe the bigger companies, the government companies and whatever, they're a little bit more into that. Here in my environment, that's just beginning to happen. Let's hope that we can get back to some normal kind of face-to-face interviewing, because it's very hard. It's very hard to build a relationship with a client when it's all online. It's very difficult. It's hard to win new business when you're doing it all online. You need to get down and you need to share some of your knowledge with your client. You need to break that face-to-face thing. That's all I...
Evelyn, that was really generous sharing, and you hit on some very good points. So thank you very much. Much more and more useful than expected. So thank you. Yeah, Evelyn touched on some very good points. The importance of face-to-face, what's happening as far as the job market goes. Looking towards the future, and in a moment, I'm going to call on several of our supporters to share some economic outlook ideas on how they perceive what's going to happen in the market. But is there anyone else that would like to add to what Sarah and Evelyn kindly shared?
I'll add something if you like from a WA perspective. I think Scott's on the call from WA. I think to echo Evelyn's points from a relationship perspective, I think the good thing about 2020 kind of hit home, I think, for a lot of people about how focused your relationships either are or not. And whilst technology was seen, I think for some people as a bit of a silver bullet, it was it's certainly an enabler. But I think you can't beat seeing the whites of your candidates or your client's eyes, as the expression goes. So I think from a WA perspective, obviously a different case, I know, compared to what's happening in the eastern states, but making the most of that in terms of building that trust and or building on that trust in your relationship has been certainly key. From a 2021 perspective, again, kind of speaking through or seeing it through the lens of a technology perspective, it seems to be sort of quite positive and buoyant, particularly in terms of sentiment and decision making around projects, which is obviously a key driver, particularly over here in WA, and also I know that filters through to other parts of Australia as well. So I think probably what we're always trying to do is just kind of consistently asking questions about, where people are in terms of their decision making in their space, and just constantly looking at ways of how we can educate and influence, so that we can understand that there is a better and a smarter way to build on their talent teams and obviously have more effective people. So I think the expression of workspace as opposed to workplace starts to play in, and it's kind of helping our customers obviously identify, one, those sorts of people who can work in that space, and two, helping them provide environments where some people perform well at home, and some people perform well in an office environment of sorts, and some are happy to work in that environment where it's a bit more of a hybrid that's been quite productive. So we're seeing a lot of organisations are trying to straddle the best of those worlds, and kind of knowing that going forward this is going to be somewhat of a new way, or all the it's going to COVID, if you like, is going to be around for ever, as the expression goes. It's how we deal with it and how we make the most of it and leverage it going forward. So so it should be hopefully much better 2021 than it was in 2020, all being well.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you very much. When we sort of know what we're dealing with a little bit more now. Thank you very much for sharing those ideas with us. Anyone else that wants to quickly jump in before I call on some of our supporters who've prepared some ideas for you? All right. Well, I'll be asking you for some feedback later on in the session as well. So those of you who didn't get an opportunity to talk can feel free to jump in later. But I think I might go to Cameron Martin first, from William Buck, who from an accounting firm perspective has a very large client base, particularly in New South Wales, but his colleagues work in all states in Australia. And Cameron, I wondered if you could share some ideas on maybe a couple of things from 2020, but some expectations for 2021.
Sure, thanks, Tony. I'm probably, we're very confident, and we think 2021 will actually be a lot better than what a lot of other people are thinking. There's a lot of good signs. Businesses did stop spending money in the middle of last year, but we've seen people sort of reinvigorate their plans, particularly to spend money on things like IT. So I think as a recruitment business, if you're specialising in some of these industries where businesses are going to be spending money, you're going to be doing well. And I think IT in particular will be one of those. We had a recruitment client that had in their Melbourne area their best month they ever had in November last year, coming off the back of the lockdown, and they're specialising in recruiting sort of technology. So I think depending on where you are, you're going to do really well. I think that the international travel is not going to happen for a while, so the amount of money people still have is quite significant, and they're spending that. So if you're in a space where you're retail and you're selling gadgets, you're selling technology, you're selling stuff online, selling anything people want, and they're at home and they've got time to do things, in particular leisure. If you're selling jet skis or boats or things, you don't have enough stock, you can't keep up with the demand. So there's obviously industries that we're seeing like travel and tourism that are not doing so well, but overall in our client web base, we've got a really interesting sort of lens to be able to see current up-to-date data across a large number of small to medium businesses. Most of them, they're cashed up, their cash balances are better than they've ever been. Most of that's to do with the government stimulus, but they're going into 2021 really strongly. Their pipelines are looking good. Most of them have got off JobKeeper, which is a good sign. And so, from a business point of view, there's obviously some risks there, depending on the vaccine and what happens there. There's some risks on what's happening overseas, but I think locally, what we have control of, things are doing quite well. People ask me a bit about property and shares, and I think in particular in the major CBDs, and then anything that's within a couple of hours of major cities, you're going to see price growth in property probably around 10% this coming year. Even though there's not a lot of immigration, we're still seeing a lot of expats coming back, and those expats are wanting to live in particular areas, and they're paying crazy money for property. So we're not expecting anything bad to happen there, which will then mean that the banks are going to be going quite strongly too. In terms of the share market, money is so cheap at the moment. You can't get anything for a bank deposit. I think that a lot of people moved from cash into shares late last year, and I think that's just going to continue. There's still a lot of cash around there. There's still a lot of cheap money. So we're not expecting share markets, subject to other world events. We're not seeing share markets going to necessarily be dramatically impacted, and probably see sort of small increases over the next 6 months. But on a business point of view, wage growth is most likely going to be negligible over the next couple of years. And as I said before, we're seeing people spending money on technology. They want to make their businesses, operate more efficiently. And we're seeing a lot of business owners who would normally spend 1 or 2 months a year traveling for conferences or for, leisure. That's not happening, and they're spending that time in investing, that time in growing and improving their business and investing in technology and doing all the things that they always wanted to do. They just didn't have time to do them. So, overall, we're quite positive about 2021, and looking forward to participating in Captain's Table.
Oh, very good, Cameron. Thank you very much, and some great ideas for everyone there. Thank you. I'd like to cross to Martin, a relatively new CEO of JobAdder, but now you've been in the chair for quite some time, Martin, and keen to hear how you're getting on and how you're seeing or how you saw the marketplace, because you came into the role 2020, and now you're obviously doing a lot of planning for 2021.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. So I'm almost 6 months in. It was an interesting time to start the role, but it's been needless to say, an amazing 6 months. Really enjoying it, enjoying getting to know you guys a bit more, and then to get closer to the customers. So one of the things I wanted to actually spend a couple minutes on, I won't spend too long, but back in Q4, we released a recruitment industry report. And what that was a look at some of the data that we were seeing across some of the key metrics, like number of job orders, placements, time to hire, a bunch of different things that, of course, in Australia, but in some of the other countries that we have a lot of customers in. And what we wanted to see from that was, okay, well, how are things going now? 6 to 9 months in after COVID started. And what we found was that actually there was a lot of reasons to be optimistic in terms of at least on a month by month, especially starting from around April and then into May, month by month growth in the industry and sort of, just some emerging green shoots. So what I thought would be useful today, part of that looking back, like in 2020 was, okay, well, what have we seen exiting the year? I'm going to share with you guys, I think, a sneak preview, some of this data that we will be sharing it a bit more broadly in a report that's going to be coming out in a few weeks. You'll get the first bite on it. But some of the things, if we looked at December, like the last full month of 2020, it's actually to the point that Cameron raised, it's pretty encouraging going into 2021. So we looked a lot of at month over month data in our last report. In this particular case, I'm looking at year over year data. So we're comparing December data of 2020 to 2019. And so what we're seeing is that the number of job orders actually increased 18% year over year. And the placements, number of placements actually grew even faster. So 29% year over year. And then a big driver, which is not too surprising on how the placements grew, was from temp jobs. So temp jobs actually in terms of placements grew by about 46% year over year. Permanent jobs, I think, were relatively flat. So the bulk of the growth came from temp. Going into January, just in terms of the most recent data, it's the first 2 weeks of January. So you have to take it with a grain of salt, as Evelyn said before, really things get rolling after Australia Day. That's 20%, 28% year over year. But then if you go back to December again, in terms of placements per job order, this is essentially how successful you are in being able to place for each job, it actually went up. So it's about 0.79 placements per job order versus 0.72 the year before. So that shows essentially some good momentum coming out of the year. We're lucky here in Australia, relatively speaking. The recovery essentially start to mount some good momentum. And I thought what would be interesting too is not only to see, because this is a lot of data that we have in our platform with the roughly a couple thousand or more agency recruiter customers that we have. But I thought it would be interesting also to see, okay, well, which categories, which kind of jobs are actually getting the most growth. And we're able to look at that by just in terms of job categories that are advertised. The first two are not surprising. The number one is trade and services. Number two is healthcare and medical. But number three, and I think this is a bit of a surprise, and again, very encouraging if you think about where we came from, was hospitality and tourism. So that one was a bit of a shock It's like, how does that work? That's very counterintuitive. You think that sector would be quite suppressed because of COVID, but I think what's happened is actually it's in recovery mode, and that whole sector has pivoted particularly from global interconnection to much more local. But that's, again, shows a lot of positivity and encouragement going into 2020. I listened, not a whole lot of thoughts in terms of like, how to think about 2021, other than that, I think there's a lot to be encouraged by. I'd like to echo a couple of the comments that were made before that Evelyn and Glenn, I think, touched on. And this also goes back to some of the data that we saw. Back in our last report, we showed something in which time to hire was twice as fast if you were able to place a candidate using your own database versus advertising. Again, that's not a shocker. That's fairly understandable. But I think what that means is, particularly with a labor market that's been much more constrained in terms of locally, with less immigration, that utilizing your contacts and your database and cultivating those relationships, spending more time with them is going to yield a lot of good returns. And then, from a technology perspective, and this is bringing it a little bit closer home to Job Adder, is one of our big priorities going in 2021. We want to continue to innovate. We want to continue to make recruiters' lives easier by making the technology simpler. We want to ultimately have the technology get out of the way, so you can spend that time with the candidates and with the and with their clients. One of the things that we see though is that there's about a 50% awareness or adoption of different features that we have. So what that means is we're putting some effort into making the product even simpler, and then also to provide just good online sort of education. And what I'd say is, particularly in these first few weeks, where it's possible, get more out of the technology and the software, so you can actually then have things even be faster, the administrative tasks, the job postings, the candidate enrichments, et cetera. So again, you can spend even more time working with your candidates and or developing new business.
All right, Martin, that's it. That was quite a good amount of information. Thank you very much. And as I said before, I mean, you've got some data and some information that none of us have, and some tremendous insights there. So thank you very much. And thanks obviously for all your support at Captain's Table. Now, I think, Colin, if you're ready, you there, Colin? Asked you to put, if that was all right for you to share a few ideas, maybe introduce yourselves briefly to everyone as a new supporter of Captain's Table, and some information you've collected for us.
Yes, I wanted to, I suppose I didn't want to dwell back on March, but I want to take us all the way back to what I call the COVID-19 scare that I definitely got, and I'm sure a few other people got as well. On the 8th of March, and it seemed to dramatically go downhill from there. So, I made a list last night of, I think, what I've gone through and what others have gone through, and really information I've collated along the way. I think we saw a lot of knee-jerk reactions, some justified in business, but then we saw the rise to toilet paper and, of course, the hand sanitizer stocking up. I think we saw, obviously, with the work from home, that was enforced, which for some, I think, were ready. I think we were ready, but not quite ready to enforce it. From me being in London and making a call from overseas. I think with that, with potentially profits going down, I think we might have also seen micromanagement go up potentially across the board. There was obviously the assistance of JobKeeper, JobMaker, the closure down, I think loss of jobs across the board, lockdowns. Some of that time, I think, gave owners and people within business time to really have a think about what they do well, what they don't do so well. So whether that was people, pricing, costs, and systems. In amongst those last few months, I think we've seen the Risalto case as well, which is all encompassing. I think it's highlighted the need for good relationships and obviously trust. We've seen an increase in mental health issues. And I think it's also highlighted the good, the bad, and I think potentially the ugly in some people. And I've often said to our staff, you'll always remember how you got treated in COVID-19, you know, and we've really looked at that. For me, last year, COVID-19 is around to stay for a while. With a vaccine coming out, it's being rolled out in other countries and will be here soon. But I've taken some really, really key learnings from that. Yeah, I've made mistakes, but I look at this year and, you know, looking at those numbers that were just pushed out by JobKeeper, Job Adder. And I think all of those potential issues and learnings has actually created some big opportunities for everyone. If we start to look at maybe some of that micromanagement, and there has been job losses, I think there's been a reduction potentially in some companies, and there's going to be less recruiters at the moment, but there's definitely growth. That's the chance for some companies to grow relationships and grow business. I think what we're seeing now, whilst we took around about a 25% hit across that year, we've definitely seen, I think there's going to be a growth in contractors. I think we're going to find as well potentially that companies might not be willing to take as much of a risk in some cases. If we start to look at the Rosato impact, I don't really think that that's the end of it, and it's not been felt yet across the industry. There's obviously concern. People are doing a few things to change that, but with that in mind, you know, my thought is that people or companies might be willing to outsource that risk potentially. We're starting to see an increase in startups. Now, that may have an effect, whether it's the new year, but it also potentially might have an effect on that micromanagement that could potentially have been felt throughout the year with some companies. Speaking to friends, family, and people in the industry, I think we're also starting more foreign investment coming to Australia. Why is that? I don't know. My thought process, if we look around the world, UK and America, there's obviously issues with COVID, and I think the government over here has done a fantastic job in the control of the borders to keep the numbers under control, and people may be looking outside the box to look at some of the confidence in the market, and I think we're seeing a lot of confidence in the market, and I'm hoping that continues and hoping it grows for everybody. We'll definitely see a bumpy ride. COVID-19 is not going to go away. It's not, but I think the key learnings from last year and the enforcements that have happened, you know, should hopefully put us in good stead if there are outbreaks, to learn from what we did last year and effectively have a plan A and a plan B. Definitely want more flexibility. I don't know whether some companies are going to push the 5-day week back in the office. Our staff going to accept that. I think more agencies are starting to look at the contractor book. If they hadn't had one, are they looking to grow that in the event to sort of pay the bills? And there's obviously definitely a mental health issue, you know, with a bigger proportion of people. And I think everyone, me in particular, has got to look out for our staff, our workers, and our contractors. And I think that should be forefront of mind. People have often asked me, what have you learned? It's not necessarily learned. I think it's just reiterated. Yeah, systems have got people through this, but over and above that, it's actually people that have got us through. And you know, often we talk amongst the leadership, and I think it is we've got to keep asking the question of other individuals and people out there, are you okay? Because yeah, I think we're going to go in and out of spikes, and we've got to accept that. But it's been difficult for everybody, and I think everyone's been you know, affected by it. But you know, I see there's definite opportunity out there. There's definitely confidence coming back. There was confidence at the end of last year, and I've seen a lot more activity in the market. So you know, hopefully that rubs off all the way through everyone on this call and everyone out in Australia and surrounds.
Oh, very good, Colin. Thank you. Really good summary, and thanks for some very positive words and a positive outlook. And I think in general from everyone, we're hearing that a lot of the tough decisions were made last year. Last year was pretty difficult for many companies, but everyone's quite optimistic, particularly us here in Australia, on going forward if we can keep the virus under control. But there are some things we need to manage there, and all three of you have nicely articulated some ideas on that. So thank you all very much. Cameron Buckley, I'm going to cover some information that you shared with us a couple of Captain's Table members ago when I talked a little bit about economic indicators. So just so you know, that's coming up, but feel free to jump in when I do that. All right, let's get into some of the nitty gritty then, talking about the way forward. And I think in business planning, one of the most important parts of it is to understand, where have you come from, what's worked, what hasn't. A lot of you have made some major changes in your business already, which is really good. Some of you moved quicker than others. Some made good decisions. Some of us made decisions that might not have worked out as we hoped. But the beauty of business planning is that you can really think about what's happening and how you can put goals and actions in place to really improve your business. So I want to just quickly go back to you, the audience, and I wondered if you wouldn't mind heading to the chat for a second and just typing in some of the things that you're most worried about going forward into 21, because I want to cover some of those issues as we go forward in this workshop today. But any big concerns or considerations that you have going forward, put in there, and also I'd like to capture your view on how optimistic or pessimistic you are about 2021 as a whole, because that'll be very useful to share with everybody. So when you get a few moments to do that, we'll plug that into the planning process. But in the meantime, I've spent quite a bit of time doing some research now into what the economic outlook could possibly be looking like for the recruitment industry, and I just wanted to share a little bit of the research that I've done on your behalf. And the overarching, as you probably know, economic indicator for the whole economy is GDP, or gross domestic product. And expectations from IBIS World are that there is going to be a decline of 2.7% in the financial year 2021, which we've only got 5.5 months to cover, but then a strong recovery in the next financial year. And I think that gels with what Cameron Martin and Colin shared with us from their perspectives as well. And unemployment is another good indicator for the recruitment industry. Obviously, the higher the escalation of unemployment, then you would typically logically say, well, then maybe there's less jobs that are going to be advertised. It's expected to average 7.7% for 2021, which is a big jump from around that 5% level that we've had for so long. And I believe that 5% level was actually full employment, not actually unemployment, because there were so many jobs available out there when we're at 5% for so long that I firmly believe that many of those people that were unemployed for a reason, often no fault of their own, of course, but I think that shift from our base level was probably around about the 5% mark, and then that sudden increase in the first half of the 2020 financial year was quite a significant jump, and it'll be good to see, or interesting to see, what happens when figures are released monthly for the rest of this financial year. Job ads. I like to look at Seek job ads. To me, they're a gold mine there of information of what's happening in each sector and each industry and in each state or each city or each region. And it's really good to cut the information up. And I think Seek could do a lot more with this information that they have. Like them, or hate them. You know, there's some really good information there, and it's probably the most accessible direct barometer we have for the broader employment market, if you like, that relates to the recruitment industry as a whole. Their latest report was November, so the information is not very current given that we're in January, but there was quite a big jump. The recovery that we just heard about was up 8.6% month on month and up 1% for the year in November. And I suspect that the December results might be a little bit flat going into Christmas, but not necessarily negative. And again, it's going to be interesting to see what information does come out as far as job advertising goes. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. And then by sector, some of the reading that I've done around sectors that are going to be strong, and these were mentioned by the gentleman that talked before. Healthcare definitely on the rise and stronger, given that we're in a healthcare crisis. That makes sense. Technology, as more and more companies are looking to move to online and digitalize their businesses. Logistics that are managing all the trend towards online ordering and online purchase of goods and services is looking to continue its strength. Food has always been a staple, and we've seen some very strong performances from food companies. Ironically, retailers have been stronger in that technology sector. You probably just saw JB Hi-Fi's results are out and very, very strong. And we expect that in the technology side, but not necessarily in the broader general retail side. Myer, for example, continues to post losses and is in all sorts of pain at the moment because of the competition from online ordering, and they're very slow addressing and transformation into online. Trades, very strong. I concur with, I think it was Martin that mentioned trades and services. Strong, and I've got some data for you on that in a second. A lot of people are at home. A lot of people are doing more around their houses. Good luck getting a home renovation done at the moment. With the tradies are having a field day out there, as many of you will hopefully agree. The housing sector we mentioned, or Cameron mentioned, I think residential, much stronger, but and continuing to grow because money is cheap, but not so much the commercial property sector as more companies look at work from home options and look at that big cost that's always been a big cost for recruitment companies, and that's the office rent and the office space. And many recruitment companies have looked at their big rent obligations and have started to think, can they do more with less and not necessarily be spending so much on rent and have more flexible work arrangements to not have that huge amount of expensive real estate sitting there. And the old adage, right from some of you that go back as far as I do, we always said the biggest two costs in running a high-performing recruitment company are staff, and obviously that's the most important. But the second biggest cost was always rent. So anything that can be done to reduce rent but still maintain that high level of communication that was also talked about earlier is really important, and we'll cover some of that as we go forward also. So other areas that are looking a little bit weaker into 2021, international travel, obviously off the cards. Qantas was very optimistic in announcing they're going to sell tickets in July. I actually think that's not very fair to take people's money. There's no way international flights are going to be taking off in July for all sorts of reasons, and you know what those reasons are. But conversely, you would have noticed domestic travel is very strong, and I've got some more data on the hospitality and travel sector, which Martin said was really surprising to him. That actually, when we think about it, given that there's so much pent-up demand for all of us wanting to go away and take a break, our only option is locally, and often our only options have been within our own state. And anyone that tried to book something over the Christmas break was in for a very rude shock how even I was hearing ridiculous stories that patches of grass in caravan parks were selling for $250 per night, just to put your tent on it. And that really tells you how strong our domestic travel market could be. And if we can get the virus eradicated and get interstate travel back up, then we're in for some, hopefully in for some increases in and some improvements in that sector, and that all of us will get a bit more freedom to go see clients, see customers, and to take a break away from home. And then there's some pockets of banking and finance that aren't expected to be necessarily that strong. And I've also been reading that the legal sector, mainly because of from what I'm hearing, and Jason might be able to comment on this, but the sheer volume of commercial transactions is declining. So therefore, by default, it means there can be declines in the legal sector. But I guess if there's more stress in the marketplace, then family law potentially might be in the uptick. But that was just one I was reading about as well. In terms
Commercial's actually quite busy, Tony.
Sorry, say again, Jason?
Commercial property, employment law, family, commercial litigation. Most areas of insurance is sort of counter-cyclical, and as is litigation. And once the safe harbour protection's removed, there may be a flood of insolvency cases coming through as well. But lawyers are very bullish about the market this year across most sectors. Are they?
Yeah, okay. All right, no, very good. And that's an interesting point you make too as well. Once JobKeeper is completely off the cards, and then we might see a raft or a whole lot of insolvencies happening, then things will be changing there. Okay, so business confidence. Now, this is another important barometer, if you like. It's expected to remain severely negative in 2021 as COVID restrictions continue to hinder economic activity, according to IBISWorld. Now, I suspect from what we've heard today that actually it shouldn't be that negative, and that we've pretty much, fingers crossed, got a handle on this whole dynamic, and that we know how to cope with it better, and we've adjusted our businesses, and that business confidence itself can start improving now as in the second half of the financial year, as we do have a good handle on the situation, particularly in Australia. And then finally, stock markets. Australian market, I looked at the All Ordinaries Index, where it is now and what it was compared to the beginning of January last year, and we're actually only down 2% from the beginning of last year. So that is actually quite a positive indicator as well, given the market fell, I think it was around 28% at one stage last year, and it's recovered just about all of its losses during COVID. And so as I think Cameron said, the Australian stock market now, with the money cheap and with not that many investment options around, I mean, residential property, extremely expensive, although borrowing rates are much lower. Commercial property, a bit of a question mark around that. And then at least the stock market as the other major form of investment that people will start looking at. And I've heard that the banks might come back in favour again, given that things have settled down. Even though interest rates are lower, they're still making the same margins that they were making during boom times. So just some ideas for you there on the economy anyway. And then I promised that I would talk a little bit more about Seek job ads, and I find it really interesting, and I encourage you all to have a dig around at Seek. Obviously, in your own sector, it's really, really important to know what your clients are doing when they're advertising themselves, and also what other recruitment agencies in your sector are doing, but also what some of the job trends are looking like. So this morning, this is very, very new information. I looked at the total number of jobs as of today, 20 January, which is a very big day in world history. As you all probably know, it's Donald Trump's last day, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the US. But and I think that change is very positive for stability in our country anyway, and we'll see what happens there. But here is a ranking of, well, there was a total of 132,057 jobs advertised on Seek today. And interestingly, in Sydney just pipped Melbourne and at the post in total number of jobs on. But look at regional, well, look at New South Wales as a whole, 39,000. So there was quite a few extra jobs that are outside Sydney, which was quite interesting. And the same with Melbourne. And Melbourne and Sydney, neck in neck in total job openings, which is really interesting. And then we go to Brisbane and Perth, and look at the huge difference in Brisbane between Brisbane jobs and regional jobs. And I know some of you on the call are from regional areas in Queensland, and you probably won't be surprised by this, but I was surprised by the huge amount of regional jobs in the Queensland market. So this sort of information gives you a bit of strategic input, if you like, or in your business planning around where demand is and where current jobs are at. Of course, it's not the whole market because not all jobs are advertised, but it is a good sample size to look at the pockets of where jobs are at and where growth's at. And unfortunately, I can't compare these with this time in December because Seek doesn't have that information yet. But a little bit further down, you'll see what they did release in November. But I quickly want to talk about Perth as well. Perth nearly up there with Brisbane, but regional again, some strong regional jobs in WA, and a lot of from I hear from my Western Australian clients is that the market is very strong, very positive, and I think you guys on the call from WA will concur. But the interstate border closures have been really preventing the inflow of potential talent, just as the farmers are really lacking the huge backpacker community in fruit picking, and our supply of labour is really tightened up in Australia, both from overseas and from the border closures. Adelaide, 5,000, then down to Canberra, 4,000. Canberra and ACT as a whole, pretty much the same thing. And then you have some figures for Hobart and Tasmania. But I wanted to show you, this is Seek's latest growth figures going back to November, as I said, a bit old, but they're quite positive. You can see there. You can see November versus October, quite strong in just about all states, except WA, a small decline there. But November 20 versus November 19, very strong, except for the two lead states that we, as in Victoria and New South Wales, down a little bit in November, coming into the Christmas break. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea, and everyone will have different interpretation of these figures. But I thought that it would be good for you to have a look at those figures. And then let me drill down a little bit more for you. And Martin mentioned surprise to see trades and services, but the Seek figures show that trades and services actually has the most job openings at the moment, with 18,358. Closely followed by healthcare, no surprise to anyone. Manufacturing, logistics, we're not really surprised by that. There's a lot of goods being transported about at the moment. And hospitality and tourism, and I think this is a lot of this is because of the domestic or the pent-up demand for travel. Domestic hospitality and travel is in big demand. I heard a story at Byron Bay. Don't bother going to Byron Bay at the moment because even if you are lucky to find accommodation at an astronomical price, good luck getting into any restaurants. They're all booked out. And if there's any sniff that you're from a hotspot, even if it was a hotspot 6 months ago, you get refused service. So this is how strong the hospitality market potentially is at the moment. Community services was another strong one, and I suspect that's not-for-profits who are steaming ahead and are probably more in demand than they ever are, given the the mental health issues and some of the issues associated with a health crisis. Education and training coming up a bit and still in demand. And a surprise for me was the strength of admin and office support. It was in the top 10 that there are admin and office support jobs. And I wonder whether that's companies starting to rehire now after letting quite a few people go last year. So again, in your sectors, it'll all be different for all of you, but have a look what's happening there and how it relates to your businesses and the way you're approaching the marketplace. Some lag is interestingly enough, and gosh, senior, and I think Evelyn, you mentioned this, that there's not much happening in the senior end of the market, and I think a lot of companies are saving money on salaries of higher paid staff if they can possibly do without them, because that's a big hit on the bottom line, and it means that you can take cost out really quickly. And you can see that's very few jobs for the whole of Australia for CEOs and general managers. Advertising, arts and media are relatively low as well. I think they've been hit very, very hard. And I think that's reflected in the fact that the outdoor and the outdoor entertainment industry is just completely closed up. Although we're seeing the fiasco of the Australian Open tennis unfold before our eyes. We got away with it with the cricket test match in Brisbane, but we obviously got some issues with outdoor events and all the media and the companies that surround these big productions. There's many thousands of people that are employed in those industries. So, and then consulting and strategy. I can't really comment on that. And science and technology, again, these were at the bottom of the list. And it's very easy just to go in there and slice and dice, choose the state, choose the city, and then you can see how many jobs are in each of these sectors, because this will all change. This is for the country as a whole. All right. And I promised you, this is a dashboard that A Positive shared with us a couple of captain's tables ago when Ibisworld was speaking. And you can see here that some of the predictions have pretty much come true. I'm not going to talk too much on this because there's quite a bit of detail in here. But the prediction is that when JobKeeper goes down, the economic risk will increase, and that's going to happen at the end of March, as you know. Tax deferrals down, insolvencies up, we talked about that, and payment days will probably increase once the safety and security around insolvency, declaring insolvencies are removed. Unemployment's already increased, so that's already happened. And job ads starting to rise, and we'll wait and see what those figures look like, but pretty much concur that that'll happen. Payroll probably down for a bit. I think people are going to hire smarter than harder, but this will probably start turning around if all economic conditions are right by the end of the financial year, and the overall market size. I think we'll see some recovery. I've seen a lot of recruitment consultants start up their own business lately, as Colin mentioned. Whether they were made redundant, whether their businesses went out of business, we'll probably never know. But we always see this happening in economic cycles as well. So we see the market get cleaned out. Those that are operating very marginally and not professionally, that didn't have strong client relationships, that didn't have strong candidate relationships, end up being out of the market, and that it's a really good thing to have that cleansing going on. Okay, I want to quickly go to your comments, and then we're going to take a quick break, as I promised you. And if we look in the chat, we asked about what everyone was concerned about going forward. Evelyn mentioned the effects of a recession that might be happening in 2021. Client insolvency tab is mentioned, and I think that's a really good one, because once JobKeeper does go off the table, what's going to happen? And as Jeff said, exactly that, the impact of what happens when JobKeeper ends. And let's hope that most companies have already prepared for that, and they know what they're doing, so that nothing drastic really happens. And from Boardroom, and I can't remember who Boardroom is, but if you can raise your hand, no, it doesn't matter. Finished 2020 in great shape, and looking forward to continuing to build momentum in the year. And look, I get asked that all the time. How are my clients doing? How's everyone doing? And many recruitment companies actually did very, very well last year. Those that had efficiently run recruitment businesses just got their heads down, and actually, because there was so much uncertainty, and pressure to perform, they actually worked harder and smarter and had really, really good years. And a couple of my 20 or so clients that I work with overall had all-time record years last year and are very positive about the way forward. A lot of their competitors dropped out, have forced them to really manage their client relationships better and really be more efficient in their recruitment processes. Sandra said, being a small fish in a big pond, 50-50 on optimism and uncertain about the effects of JobKeeper. Yeah, exactly. Keeping the team's mental health a priority from Claire Adair's. Yes, that has definitely been identified as something really important. And boardrooms from Jeff Slade. Thank you, Jeff. And from training, end of year. Last year was flat out, however, quite a start to 2021. I'm hoping it's not a sign of the year to come. I think the comment is that maybe still a few people are in holidays. I could tell from this workshop that the auto responses I was getting back when we were talking about Captain's Table, that still a lot of people are still on break and staying on break until after the Australia Day holiday, which is actually, if you take Monday off, is a 4-day weekend for a lot of people. Concerns from Phil, yeah, post-JobKeeper economy, impending insolvencies, potential tightening of economic environment and industrial issues relating to long-term casuals. That's a really good one, Phil, too. Still a lot going through the courts around the treatment of casuals and how we treat them, and the unions firing up about that as well. And watch this space. It's going to be something very, very interesting in the new year, in 2020-21, and will affect the recruitment industry. Evelyn, my temporary book is made up mostly long-term temps. It concerns me that the new laws that will pass will not allow them to be out for more than 6 months with being offered a permanent job. Yes, just as we said, Evelyn, I think the writing's on the wall for long-term temps to be transitioned to full-time employees. We've got here with staff continuing to work 2 to 3 days per week from home. We have more space than we need at 333 Collins Street, which I can attest is probably one of the nicest buildings in Melbourne. So if anyone is interested in sharing some space, I think it's a good one, Jeff Slade. In a premium location, anyone in Melbourne looking to share some space, I can't tell you, you could share space with one of the industry's most knowledgeable, still operating recruitment leaders in probably one of the best locations in Melbourne. So no, that's really good, Jeff. And Jeff put his phone number there too. So if you ever want to have a chat there, Jeff, the price you have to pay, Jeff, for putting some advertising on there is anyone to call Jeff and talk about the market and what happened in past downturns and recessions. I'm sure he'd be very happy to have a chat with you. He's been very generous with his time over the years. Okay, Phil, very optimistic about many sectors. Many have appeared to boom. Uptake in digital marketing, as we talked about. E-commerce, yes, thank you. Sounds like you're concurring with a lot of what we've talked about so far. And strong positive sentiment. And I think, yes, hopefully that's going to pick up in February. There is a question mark about what's going to happen in the US and Europe and how it might affect our marketplace, but we'll watch that space. And hopefully then you all are feeling relatively positive. And if you're a little bit negative about your particular sector, then now's the time to do some business planning and to really look at how you might do things differently in the way you approach the market, your sector, or your business. Okay, with that, I make it 1:15 Sydney and Melbourne and time, and 12:15 Queensland time, and I think we are about 10 WA time, or is it 9? I can't remember, I'm really sorry, but I think it's 10. Anyway, regardless, if everyone could just take maybe a 6-minute break then until about 20 past the hour, and just have a quick stretch, and then get a drink, and then we'll get into business planning in about 6 minutes time. So 20 past the hour, if you could please rejoin me back again. Thank you all. Welcome back, everybody. We'll get into part 2 of our 2021 business planning workshop, and hope you've enjoyed all the information so far. Just really quickly, I'm going to be going very, very fast through this so that at the end you have some really good ideas on what sort of things to be putting in your business plan, and whether you're a recruitment consultant, whether you're a team leader, a team manager, or a business owner of a very successful business. Business planning has many benefits that we'll talk about as we go forward. Look, one of the issues that we've got in the recruitment industry is that most companies don't have a business plan, let alone a formal written business plan. And I'm suspecting that most of you on the call, because you're even here and engaging in learning and development, that you do have a degree of planning. But most often when I go out to see recruitment companies, when I ask them, hey, can you share your business plan with me so I can get to know your business better and what you're trying to do with it so I can determine how I can help you? Sorry, we don't have a business plan. So most recruitment companies don't have a business plan. And particularly the smaller ones who are not accountable to anyone except for the owner operator. And most people, or most of these companies, have the business plan in their head. And most smaller recruitment companies make a small profit. Many recruitment companies in our industry are less than 5 staff, which is not a bad thing, let me tell you. Mostly perm recruitment, and the average staff turnover in our industry, as you probably know, is still at the 50% mark, and probably even higher than that last year, unfortunately. So we've got some work to do in our industry, but there's some really important factors that I'm going to cover that I've seen over all the years of consulting to recruitment industries and helping recruitment companies and running recruitment companies. There's some key factors that really can help improve profitability, staff turnover, and for owners and managers and recruiters themselves to improve your motivation and your love for this wonderful industry that we're in. Okay, so let's quickly talk about what happens if you don't have a business plan. And I guess the answer to that is, what are the benefits of a business plan? And normally I'd be asking you, if we're in a room face to face, I'd be asking you for a few ideas on what happens if you don't have a business plan, and what are the benefits of a business plan. But we're in this environment where we are using Zoom and we're using video, but we can still convey the information, which is one thing that we're really lucky to have. And I feel really grateful that I can be communicating with an audience such as yourselves all around our country, which is something that we couldn't normally do, because travel can get really expensive, and there's a lot of time delays, and it's been much harder to be able to do that. But we're able to be all brought together in this forum of learning and sharing with the benefit of technology. So it's not a bad thing. So you've probably seen there's lots of research that's been done. I'm not going to cite it, but there's many pieces of research to say if you write something down, the probability of success will double, if not more. So it's the process of writing down your goals and your actions so that it reinforces in your subconscious what you need to do to be successful. So that in itself is an important point. If you do put pen to paper or keyboard to monitor, you're engaging your subconscious to really help make it happen, to achieve what you really want to be doing, and to be aligning your personal goals with your business goals to make sure that you are growing a successful business, whether it's your own business as a recruitment consultant or your own business as a business owner. So I've done all the work for you rather than ask you the benefits of business planning. I've just summarized them all here for you. I mean, you're on this session knowing that the business planning is beneficial, but the key benefits of a business plan are to create and communicate short, medium, and long-term goals. Notice the word communicate there. A business plan is only really successful if you do communicate it with your team, or communicate it with someone else if you are a solo operator, so that someone else can be supporting you and helping you to be held accountable for what your goals are. It's a proven probability of increased success to have a business plan. You'll enjoy clarity from a succinct plan. Often we fight fires and we jump from one situation to the next. If you're very focused and you've got a clear road ahead, it will reduce a lot of the stress of running a business or running a desk. It allows you to maximize short-term profitability and build long-term business value, or long-term if you're a recruitment consultant, build long-term recurring client revenue streams and relationships, which over the years, as the years progress, will make it easier and easier for you to keep increasing your ability to recruit and make placements. The business planning process can act as a business improvement tool to improve your business. It allows you to share your vision with staff and shareholders for larger companies. You can develop a plan for succession, and many of us thinking about succession. Baby boomers and those a bit younger than baby boomers are coming to the time where we've got to think about what's next for the business, and business planning can really help in that. And how do we bring on the next generation to be running our businesses and taking over the reins and taking the business to the next level. It allows also us to focus on the most important activities. As I mentioned, there's a lot of distraction out there. And with the internet now, there's more, and social media particularly, there's so much distraction out there. A business plan allows you to focus, okay, I know what my goals are. They're aligned, my personal goals are aligned with my business goals. I've documented the actions I need to really focus on a weekly, monthly basis to achieve my goals. I'm going to do everything I can to keep focusing down on those activities. So that's a really important point I wanted to really stress, is allowing you to help you to reduce the clutter so you can really focus on the most important activities. So start thinking about what are the most important activities for you to be billing at your best, or to be running the best possible business. And then finally, a business plan helps hold yourself accountable and to stay on track. So, and look, I want to say here that in the past, when I was at EY, we used to do massive business plans, and we used to hand over 10 ring binder folders to a client after a 4-month engagement with them, and they were extremely impressed with how much paper there was and didn't bat an eyelid at the $80,000 bill. And but it kept striking me that client's never going to look at that plan again. No one is. How's the whole team going to look at a set of 8 ring binder folders, and how is the vision going to be shared? How is the actions how are they going to be monitored? Totally useless. And so over the years, I've been through the 20-page business plan, and then I've got it down to 1 page now. And the reason I've got it down to 1 page is not to save time or effort, but I don't believe we can remember everything that goes into a big plan. And I think once every couple of years, you do need to do the larger planning process, where you do go through each part of your business: operations, marketing, sales, staffing, financial, operations, the list. But I think we've got much bigger chance of success if we can really gel it down to a 1-page process. So that's where I'm at with my favorite business planning process now, is to try and get it really succinct into 1 page. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to make sure that I've given you enough information so that you can develop your 1-pager. And I've sent you the templates, whether you're a consultant or whether you're a business owner or a manager. And the idea here is that you can really ascertain what your important goals are and the important actions to reach those goals. And then you can build out more detail on that for yourselves later. Make sense? Okay, good. All right, so to get it into a succinct 1-page plan, we really need to look at what are the most important elements of a strong business plan. I've talked about personal and business goals, and this is something that's really, really important here, because you can have the loftiest business goals in the world, but if they don't tap into what you're personally looking to do, then you're not going to be motivated to achieve them. So I say that again, there is an alignment that's required between your personal goals and your business goals. And you are going to be much more motivated to achieve your business goals if they match your personal goals. So, and an example I use when I'm working with recruitment consultants in teams of recruitment consultants, if I can tap into what their personal goals are and then help them work out what sort of income they need to earn to achieve those personal goals, say it's to buy their first apartment, then help them to backward plan to say how much they need to bill every year to achieve that, how much they can save, and help tap into that personal plan, and then help them work out, right, how much do you need to bill, what sort of activity do you need to achieve to be able to bill that, how many placements, how many client calls, how many candidates do you need to be putting in front of clients, all that sort of stuff, activity measures that we'll cover in a second. But if we can align our team members' personal goals with their business goals, they are going to be excited to go to work every day because they're not thinking about the grind of just going to work to help build a business. They are motivated by their personal goals. And it's exactly the same for a business owner. So you as business owners, a lot of you, all you do, I know, is live and breathe your companies, and you think so much about building your business, and some of you have been doing it for many years, but what's next for you? You know, what's going to really inspire you to go in there and be at your best and to improve the performance of your business, and might not necessarily be to grow the business. And over the years, I've learned that big is not necessarily better in the recruitment industry. It's efficiency, it's performance that's much more important, because then you'll have less headaches, and you have a business that will work in regardless of what economic conditions that we're in. So for those of you that have been around for a while, start thinking about what your personal goals are, whether it's succession, whether it's something you want to do later for yourselves, so that you can then get inspired to be in your business. Because if you're not inspired, your team will see it instantly. So for owners, you need to make sure you are inspired, because your teams will catch on if you're just going through the motions and coming into work just to be at work. So personal and business goal alignment. SMART goals, you all know what they are. I normally ask you what SMART stands for, but I'm pretty sure most of you on this meeting today know that we talk about goals that are specific, measurable, they're achievable, they're realistic, and they're timely. They're the sort of goals that you want to have. You want to be really specific in your goal setting. So, and make them specific as well. And as a business owner, you want to set profit goals and then work out how you're going to get there. And around those profit goals go all the other important things that are important to you in business. Because if you do have decent profit, then you're covered regardless what happens. And that a successful business is going to be a happy business as well in most cases. Make sure you can measure, and that's why profit is a good specific goal to have, because you can measure it. And it's achievable. Don't set yourself ridiculous targets. It needs to be realistic, and you need to put timeframes on the goals that you set. So that's just the very short framework for goal setting. And then I keep going back to the old SWOT analysis. You know, it was something that was huge in the 80s, but it's still really, really useful today. And for those of you that haven't used it much, I really encourage you to go back to it, because it's a really good tool to think about what you can do to improve your business. So you've got your strengths and your weaknesses is obviously what the S and W stands for. So you look at what your strengths are, and then what you want to do is really maximize those strengths, because that's your point of difference in the marketplace. And then you want to look at your weaknesses, and you want to put actions in place to overcome those weaknesses. And that's the business improvement part of the SWOT analysis and the business planning process. And then look at opportunities. What are your opportunities in the marketplace? Do your research. We've looked at a lot of research today. You know, where are the opportunities for you and your business? And really put actions in place to maximize those opportunities, and to give yourself the ability to grow and improve, and to stay inspired, if you like, as well. And then T is threats. And threats to the recruitment industry are economic downturn, lack of hiring, increased competition. You know what they are. And once you've listed out your threats, then you'll be able to put actions in place to counteract them should they come up. And then, so SWOT analysis on its own is a very, very powerful business improvement tool, and it's not complex to do. So have a go at that when you use your template. Action planning, once again, keep it simple. I reckon 5 key actions, like 5 big actions that you're constantly focusing on to achieve your goals. You know, one of them might be to add really good quality staff that you're going to really nurture and look after, so you have very limited staff turnover. You know, that might be one action. If you're a recruitment consultant, it might be, hey, one of my key actions is I'm going to put 4 great candidates in front of 4 great clients every week, rain or shine, or whatever it might be. And then once that's documented and firmly implanted in your subconscious, then you're going to be implementing, and you're going to have success. And you're not just drifting from day to day, week to week, month to month. with the danger that you could just default to whatever comes your way, as opposed to you proactively going out there and actioning important items that are going to help you achieve your goals. So accountability, we talked about before. You want to be accountable. We all need to be held accountable in a nice way. I don't like performance management. In fact, I used to dread those 360 reviews when remember when your manager would critique your performance and then you'd have to critique your manager's performance as well. They were just terribly uncomfortable meetings. For all my recruitment teams over the years, I've used the one-page personal business plan for recruitment consultants and say, right, let's work together here. I want to really help you to achieve your goals. And I know that if you achieve your goals, the company's going to benefit. So we'd sit down and work on a quarterly business plan. We'd update the quarterly one-page business plan every month. There wasn't a performance review. They knew what they were doing wrong, what they could be doing better, because that would come up when we'd review their quarterly process. And we'd have a discussion about that. So it was not confrontational. It was us working in parallel rather than in imposed direction. So have a think about that one. So accountability in a nice way, so that we do have someone that is keeping us on track. And whoever it might be, whoever you choose, whether it's a business advisor or a mentor or a business partner, or business partner is probably not the best, because you're probably going to not really be able to hold each other accountable, because that relationship's quite different. But maybe have an outside party hold accountable business partners in a nice way, in an encouraging way, so that you make sure you are on track and you keep going and you don't stray and get distracted. Motivation is an important part of business planning as well, as we've talked about before. To keep motivated, what's going to keep you motivated? So one of the questions I always put in my business plans are, what's going to keep you motivated to keep doing what you're doing, so that every day you are inspired to go to work? What's going to motivate you? And it's going to be different for all of you. And you're going to think through this and think about what motivates you, whether it's working a 4-day week, whether it's working with certain types of people, whether it's being in front of clients all the time, whether it's helping candidates get jobs, whatever it is that really fires you up, whether it's celebrating success, whether it's going on holidays, interstate, hopefully, overseas, probably not in the near future, but whatever it is to motivate you, which comes to the last point, which is celebration. You have to be rewarding yourself, and it doesn't need to be a big reward, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do to make sure that you're highly motivated and that you celebrate that success as well? So for those of you who haven't got the template yet, don't worry. I'll have it up on screen in a second, and then I'll take a short break in a minute and make sure I've sent it to everyone. But I think you're going to need to take time out to develop your own plan yourself. Normally, what I do when we are together in the room is to get you to really nut out your plan and then share it with the rest of the group. But I don't think we're going to have time today to do that. But we'll see how we go. All right. Okay. Now, in a recruitment business, and once again, I'm going to share you some knowledge here that has been gleaned over the years. Some of you will know a lot of this. Some of you will be going, oh wow, there's some useful information that I can use here. And those of you that are really experienced, the question I ask you is, yes, you have the knowledge, but are you actually implementing it? Are you doing it? Are you using it? It's a very important factor here. So with business planning, Stephen Covey used to always say, begin with the end in mind. What are you trying to achieve? What's your grand plan? Again, if you're a consultant, where do you want to head with your career? If you're a business owner or a manager, where do you want to take that role? What do you want to do at the very end game? And then once you're clear on that, then you can plan the way forward. And again, that's the advantage of having a business plan, that you can stay focused. You feel some strength in the fact that you know where you're headed, rather than just going to work every day. And I just hope that none of you feel like you're just going to work every day, that this planning process really helps you to get inspired to achieve whatever you decide you're going to set out to achieve. So, some of the levers you can pull in a successful recruitment company are staff attraction, staff retention, and staff performance. And we have whole sessions on this. But if your goal is to be building a recruitment company, not necessarily big, as I talked about before, then you want to think about attraction, retention, and performance, because they're the critical elements. I'll say that again, the critical element of a successful recruitment company are your ability to attract staff, to retain staff, and to help them to perform. That is it. They are the biggest factors, because you can't be doing it all of it yourself. If you are a sole operator, and there's some very profitable sole operators out there, then obviously you're doing the same with yourself, and you've got to be even more focused when it's just you. You've got to be using technology efficiently, and we've got some great tools now. Gosh, I don't know what else. I mean, I've never seen a time where we've had more options to leverage technology to make our process more efficient, not to reduce our quality time in front of people, but to effectively use our time better. And we've seen some very good presentations on technology. You might have seen Jason and James's earlier in the year, the recruitment tech that they love and how they leverage technology to have a very efficient recruitment process. Sales and marketing, really important. One of the big factors I heard last year when COVID hit was that a lot of recruitment companies put more effort into sales and marketing as the market started to drop off. And I think that's important to keep that continued, and not cold calling, please, but building meaningful relationships with clients and developing strong long-term relationships with clients that are going to continuously give you business, and treating candidates obviously extremely well so that they will come back to you, and when they rise up into positions of seniority, will be utilising your services to recruit their own teams. You can also be looking at quality control in the business planning process. How do you measure quality? How do you make sure that you are delivering an efficient and quality service? Most recruitment companies, if you've heard me talk about this before, always say that they're high quality recruitment companies, but here's your opportunity to be constantly proving to your clients and candidates that you are a quality recruitment company, because the negative feedback that we do get in our industry is usually around no feedback, candidates getting no feedback, and not being communicated with effectively. So, and then finally, financial planning and reporting is the final element of business planning, which you really need to work on. If you're not strong on the financial side, I see a lot of owners that don't enjoy finance or don't like it. Just get someone to help you with the very basics. Get to understand what a P&L really means, and a cash flow statement and a balance sheet. And you'll be surprised after a few sessions how quickly you'll get a good grasp of it, and that you can use that as a tool to drive performance, and more importantly, to measure how well you've done. So have a look at that. And I'm going to give you a couple of benchmarks on that in a minute. So really quickly, I've also, this is a presentation I did last year. I've just summarized the 5 critical success factors in a recruitment business, so that you've got them in the presentation that I send to you after this session. And I've got it down to 5 factors, and that is, and I'm not going to articulate each one of them because we don't have much time, but there's an opportunity here to really develop and involve, share and execute a clear plan. So critical success factor number 1 is business planning, which is what we're doing today, to have a clear plan and to execute it really effectively. To specialize, to have knowledge in your industry, to be really good at your craft, and to really play on your strengths. Number 3 is staff, and we've talked about that before. Your staff are absolutely critical. If you are a sole operator, I really encourage you to get some resourcing support, whether it's offshore with someone like our business partner, Seaforce down in Melbourne, Myers Company. But really do try and get some support if you are a recruiter, so that you can focus on spending more time in front of clients and candidates. You will be more successful. And to be constantly practicing recruitment excellence. And I'll leave it with you to think about what that means. But it's around executing every stage of the recruitment process really effectively, not skipping any steps, and being very professional in your approach. And then finally, as we talked about before, beginning with the end in mind. Where do you want to take the business? What's profit look like? Or as a consultant, what does annual billings look like? What sizes does your operation need to be? How many clients? The types of activities that require? What locations do you need to be in? And critically, what's your unique selling point as a recruiter? What are you really known for? And are you constantly, and I say constantly, communicating that message into the marketplace that you are the person or the company to come to for this specific type of recruitment? Are you getting that message out enough so that you get inbound inquiries as opposed to having to do really tough and aggressive outbound marketing? Okay, there's another special document I'm going to send to you after this as well. Some of you have seen it. I put together over the years a one-page blueprint of profit maximization, looking at all the different recruitment companies I've been exposed to over the years, and what works and what doesn't, and got it all into one page in the different areas of the business: finance, operations, technology, staffing, everything that's if it all comes together, will help operate a business that's going to be at the very top of the recruitment industry. So I'm going to share that with you when I send you a copy of the presentation. You with me now? I'm nearly at the end, so if I can have your attention for another 10 more minutes, then I'm going to leave you with your business planning process, and then you can make contact with me afterwards if you want to do some follow-up on your business plan. So here's for recruiters, some success secrets for a recruitment consultant. I always say to recruitment consultants, really try when you're starting out, particularly beginning with the end in mind, and that's 300K in billings a year per recruitment consultant. And for owners and directors, I mean, I know it's different for perm and temp and contract, but 300K needs to be the minimum base mark for consultant billings. And to do that, it requires regular and quality communication with clients and candidates. And we've done a lot of research into this over the years. Persistence, resilience, but professional persistence. I've talked about that a bit earlier. Constant demonstration of value, of the value of clients outsourcing recruitment. And this is particularly important in this market. Clients are going to want to save money and recruit themselves. So more than ever, you're going to need to be articulating the value in them outsourcing recruitment to you, so you can do all the hard work. You can tap into your networks, and you can tap into the people that you know who can perform, so that the client can concentrate on their own business. So it's a two-stage sales process. You really need to be articulating the value of them using a recruiter, and then the value of using your recruitment company. And again, once again, it needs to be done constantly, not just once, because they might not have heard you the first time. And you need to use lots of different mediums to do that, which I'm sure you've all got in place in your marketing strategies. Treating candidates really well because they become clients. We talked about that before. Feedback and consulting. You want to be consulting to your audience. You want to be giving them information. If you can slice and dice some research like we did today and be giving it to your clients and sharing that information with them, they'll see you as a knowledge leader. You're demonstrating, as in number 6 here, that you know your market and that you're actively wanting to share knowledge with them, and establishes credibility, and it also reminds them what you do and that you are there for them when they're needing new staff. And it also helps you add value so that you're not just charging a recruitment fee. And then finally, follow-up and networking, really important. Try and get a group together. If you can get a group like this together for your clients, I'm happy to talk to you about what I've seen work over the years and what doesn't. But if there's some way you can be constantly engaging with your clients, not too much, but enough that they can see you as a thought leader and a professional in your marketplace. All right, now this is for recruiters. I'm not going to go through this too much now, but if as part of the business planning process for a recruiter, you might look at your personal goal and your total billing. Say it's 400K for a mid-range recruitment consultant. You can see down here. This is a little planning tool that can be very successfully utilized. If you only work 40 weeks a year and make one permanent, this is for permanent, and you can do your own for contract and temp. But if you make one permanent placement for 40 weeks a year at an average perm fee of 10,000, which is relatively low, there's 400,000 in billings. So surely this is possible. The comment here is for recruiters with the right focus, even in a tough market. There will always be demand for really good quality people. And we just need to spread the word out there as wide as we can that you are the source of the great talent that your clients are looking for to improve the performance and the growth of their business. So a bit of backward planning required here. How many placements per week? How many weeks? Average fee per placement and total billings. So you want a recruitment consultant, and you really want all their work to be all their hard work in 1 week to culminate in a placement, I've always said. So 38-hour week should always, all that work should eventuate in one placement. And if it's not, there's something happening in the efficiency of the process, or there's distractions, or there's too much work done in one area and not the other. But if you can really help yourselves, if you're owner-operators or consultants, or your team members, to really focus on, hey, what am I doing this week that's going to lead to a placement, then they'll be successful. So in the planning process, this helps consultants to work out, okay, here's my average fee and 1 placement a week. And this is only a 40-week year, not a 52-week year. It'll lead to 400K, which every owner would be extremely happy with as a minimum. I'm sure if you had 10 people consistently doing that, then you'd be very happy. All right, so this is what I used to use for recruitment consultants. I'll share with you really quickly. So you can use it, but you can also customize it for your own business. 5 good quality jobs on at any one time, 2 new jobs on every week, and 2 new client meetings every week. Now, getting client meetings, we've heard, is not that easy anymore. But look, if you can come up with a compelling reason to have a quick Zoom with someone if you can't meet them face to face, or important to say to consultants, please don't call up a client and say, hey, I know we don't know each other very well, but we do this, and can we get together for a coffee? The client's not going to be that excited, even if you're paying for the coffee. That's just not going to cut it. It needs to be a compelling reason. You want to be sharing information. You want to be really helping them solve a particular issue that they may have to deserve that meeting. So that was the 5-2-2 rule we used to use, and it worked really, really well to always have 5 good jobs on at one time, because then if you got 5 good jobs on and you placed 1 a week, then you're well on track for that 400K plus goal as a perm recruiter, and it's similar for contract, and you can just adjust the numbers for temp and contract. Or another good one here was 10 internal candidate interviews, and this might be for a temp recruiter, 5 candidate client interviews and 2 offers every week. Imagine that, because 2 offers, hopefully at 50-50. And Martin was saying that, gosh, it seemed like the job to placement ratio was around the 70% mark, which is really quite high, which is good. And then, for you, so work out for you as a recruiter, or you as a business owner for your recruiters, what is your 3 simple activities that can go into your business plan. 5-2-2 to build 400K is something really good to be focusing on, because every time you come into work, right, I know exactly what I've got to be doing every day. All right, that's an example for you to use. And financial planning for business owners. So most of you are business owners. We've got a few recruitment consultants here. But as business owners, have a think about your what overall you want to do with your company. Where do you want to take it financially as your financial goal? And you can work out your average consultant billings. A lot of recruitment companies don't do this, and they're very surprised when they work out what their average consultant billings are and find out they're around the $200,000 mark. And then they will find out that their profitability is very limited at that sort of average amount. You really want to be aiming at 300K plus per consultant. And then you can see number of consultants, how many consultants you need, what your operating costs are, and what your profit goal is. And if you want to talk to me about this later, I've done quite a bit of work on what the ultimate recruitment company looks like, and I'll show you that, a quick snapshot of that in a second. And you can see what that looks like. But an example here for $1 million profit, which is a magical amount for a smaller recruitment company. And even if you're a larger recruitment company, you might have teams that can do this. 10 consultants billing 300K is 300 million in billings, with operating costs of 2 million, profit margin of 1 million. That's a 30% profit margin. Is a really good goal to have. And you can extrapolate for your business and your sector and your team sizes. So once again, you can go back and look at this information later. So the alternate recruitment company, I've got a few minutes left to run this by you. And again, if you want to discuss more with you, I wanted to give you more content today than less. Clear business plan, really important. Profit margin, everyone asks me what's a good benchmark. I believe above 25%. Obviously, in a really tough year, that's going to be a struggle, but you can be adjusting your business to try and still aim for that. Specialist teams, 6 regular billers in your team. Have your teams more manageable rather than a big team that you've got some very low billers and some very high billers. Try and split them up into easily managed teams with team leaders, so that you as an owner aren't managing lots of people. You're managing leaders in a larger company, or your leaders are not managing too many people. With a goal of a $100,000 profit per biller is a really good goal to have, with a good split between perm, contract and temp. We haven't got time to talk about the pros and cons of having some diversification here. Obviously, there's some benefit of having some contract and temp revenue, but not at the expense of perm, because perm in big hits is very profitable to have and can be underpinning the performance of a recruitment business. So more on that in some of our sessions coming up this year. And you want to have low staff turnover. It's a really good indicator of the efficiency and effectiveness of your business if you do have low staff turnover. Okay, we're nearly there. Can you give me 5 more minutes? Not, if I can, please. Thank you very much. All right. So some of you I know have to go and do meetings. We do have the recording, we do have the presentation, but this slide is quickly about the why. Why are you doing this? And for anyone that's doing business planning, an owner or a consultant, why are you doing it? Really tap into what it is for you personally, and then and have your business plan work for you, not the other way around. Have your business or your desk work for you, not you working for your desk or your business. So the why, what are you really tapping into? Why are you doing it? And it might be because you want something amazing for your office or a holiday. It might be for children. It might be for your dream house or whatever it might be. But have a photo of that somewhere, I believe. Make it very visual, just as the writing down part's important. Work out what your visual inspiration is, if you like, to be able to get there, and then what you really need to focus on. And for recruiters, 4 good quality candidates to 4 quality clients per week. I used to always work towards when I was recruiting, and it really, really works because it focuses your attention and the things that you're doing. Or you might want to achieve as a business, be securing 4 quality new regular clients per month per consultant might be a really good goal as well. Whatever it might be, tap into your why and have it very clear what the activity is required, that succinct activity is required for you to achieve your goal. Okay, it's over to you guys now. So just to finish up, I've sent you, and anyone that doesn't have the templates, can you please email me? But I think all of you have. Jeff's just sent me a note, he didn't get his, but that's all right, because what we're going to do is, here's what they look like. Here's the company plan. Now, it looks really simple, but it does require some thought. And I really, really encourage you to sit down undistracted and really think about some of this stuff and what you're trying to achieve in the 1-page plan. And yes, you can make it bigger later if you want to and dig down more, but this structure should really help you. And as I said before, if you want to send it to me, I'm really happy to take a quick look over it for you and give you any added inspiration if I can. And then the consultant plan. And if you want to customize this for your teams, if you've got teams of consultants, please use it because it really does work. I've proven it over the years, and it's much less invasive than the old performance appraisal system. You're working on a quarterly review of a consultant's business plan. It's much more positive than I'm going to appraise your performance. Okay, and you'll notice there's a sign off on both of these because it gets people signing off and committed to achieving these goals. All right, and then as we talked about before, share the plan, share it with your team, share it with your loved ones, with your colleagues, your fellow leaders, external advisors, whoever. And again, really, it'll be much more successful. And then as a summary checklist for you in my last minute, construct your smart business plan, focus on critical activities, ignore distractions. communicate effectively, communicate the plan that is, and constantly communicate the plan, not just a one-off, because people might be away, people might forget, people might not be listening. Review it constantly. What can you be doing better? Feel free to change it as you're going along, and that's all right. Hold yourself accountable. Really, really go, right, I'm going to put a line in the sand or a stick in the ground to say, hey, I'm really going to do this. And you'll be surprised how the probability of you achieving it will dramatically increase if you really commit and hold yourself accountable. Keep reminding yourself of the why. Why are you doing this? Why do you go to work? Why are you building a business? What is inspiring you to do it day in, day out, and get a lot of passion and motivation from doing it. And then reward yourself. Set yourself some small rewards along the way, big or small, to say, right, when I achieve this, I am going to reward myself with that. And you'll find that it's a fantastic process, and you will be in a very great recruitment business and really enjoying yourself and the work that you do. All right. So we got through to the end. There's a lot more that goes around that, of course, but I've tried to keep it succinct and summarized for you. In closing, before everyone needs to go, I'd just like to say, feel free to, instead of having questions now, send me any questions or ideas or comments that you have. No obligation whatsoever. I'm happy to help anyone I can on the planning process, and it gives me a lot of joy to see people successfully implementing some of the stuff that we talk about in Captain's Table, and hope you do really well out of it. So again, thank you so much to our supporters of Captain's Table, Ayers Group, Bay Positive, Job Adder, Digit Pro, and William Buck. Again, I stress, tap into their knowledge banks as well, and the really nice people that you've heard. You've heard some of them speak today, and a lot of you know these guys, and they're really knowledgeable and friendly as well. So thank you, everybody, and hope you got a lot out of today, and I hope you'll join us next month for Captain's Table. We'll go back to a more traditional Captain's Table. We'll have a speaker and discussion, and try and constantly be giving you high impact sessions that are really useful for your recruitment companies. Thank you all. Really appreciate you all being here.
Thanks, Tony. Very motivating.
Thanks, Danny. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Thank you, everybody.